All right, there we go. Welcome, Colts fans. It is now September, what is it? September 10th, I believe?
Yep.
September 10th. The Colts have started 0-1 once again. Another year has passed where the Colts do not win their week one game. But as we were talking about before we went live, we should have listened to Landon. We should have listened. Landon said the Jaguars were going to win by 10. And we just didn't listen. Landon, I mean, tell us, man, what can we do to listen better from now on?
I mean, it's pretty simple, man. Like the Lord gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, so you can listen twice as much as you talk. And that's really all there is to it. You just gotta trust the process. Just trust the process.
Oh my gosh, we're in the trust the process mode now. Okay, hey man,
I got a process. I said the Jags were gonna win by 10.
I
was only off by 3 points. They did win by 10. I had 34-30-24. It was 31-21. So my bad on not getting that exact.
Yeah.
But unfortunately I'll take it.
Hey man, we all believed that this offense could possibly score over 20 points, and that just did not happen. I think Marcus, correct us if we're wrong. You had them winning 20-16, I think.
Yeah, I said we were going to win like 24-17, something crazy like that.
Yeah, something low.
Yeah, I said it was going to be a low-scoring game.
Well, regardless, guys, the Colts did not win. They fall 21-31 to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and there were some positives. There were definitely some negatives. We're going to get into that here, but before we do, make sure you are following the Blue Stable anywhere you get your podcast, anywhere you see us on social media, Instagram, TikTok, X, whatever the case may be, and make sure you are subscribed and liking this live on YouTube as well. And speaking of YouTube, man, I really like the Sunday ticket setup on YouTube TV. It's a lot better than when it was with DirecTV. Cheaper too, obviously. We love that as well. But other than that, guys, let's go ahead and jump into it. Colts losing, but let's start with what do you guys want to start with first? I'm curious. What is it that you want to start with first? You want to start with the bad or the good?
Start with the bad first.
Start with the bad.
Out of the way.
Yeah, start with the bad so we can end on a positive note.
All right, well, let's get to the bad. The offensive line was still not good today. Still a lot of money invested in that unit, high resources invested in that unit, and it still could not push a loaf of bread across the aisle at Walmart. It just could not get any kind of a push. Braden Smith was getting worked by Josh Allen. And Landon, I know you spoke about Josh Allen when we did the pregame show. He had 3 sacks today. Josh Allen alone had 3 sacks today. And that's not necessarily on Anthony Richardson's fault. Could he have, gotten rid of the football quicker? Rookie, first game. Well, I'm putting this on the offensive line, man.
2 of the 3 sacks were forcing Anthony Richardson out of bounds behind the line of scrimmage off of scramble plays. So, I don't really – I mean, those are sacks on the stat sheet, but it's not really a sack. So, really, he only had 1 sack where he actually – and the guy got Richardson in the pocket.
And on that 1 sack, that the one true sack that Josh Allen got, he got chipped twice by our tight ends. And he still beat Braden Smith around the corner. So the 2 chips did not even work at all. Braden Smith was sitting back waiting for him and then still got around him. So Braden Smith, in my opinion, I was really watching closely to the offensive line in this game because I really wanted to see how they would perform, man. They get a D- for me in this game. They were bad. They were not good. They were getting beat up the middle. They weren't opening any lanes in the running game. And then when they did, which was very few times, the running backs didn't go to the lanes that were opened up. So that's where I'm going to start with the offensive line. Marcus, let's go to you. Let's go to Landon afterwards. What were your thoughts about the offensive line in this game?
Well, I think you've seen some signs, especially like RPO-wise, how the offensive line could look. But I didn't think they were perfect, of course. But, again, the Jaguars' defense that's what the Jaguars usually do against the Colts. I think they always show out, especially rushing-wise. And I think both defenses played very well today, but we'll get into that later. But for the offensive line's sake, I did say I think it was if I had to give it a grade, I'll say it was a C. There were some bright spots. especially when you've seen Anthony Richardson had his time in the pocket. He sat there for a few plays when he was just literally waiting for somebody to get open. So other than that, like I said, it's a C grade. It was average. It could have been better, but I mean, I did see some positive signs today. But of course, it just didn't pan out when it came to running the football.
Yeah, very similar. And I mean, at the end of the day, too, something I was told a long time ago is those guys get paid too on the Jacksonville sideline. Those guys are making money. Josh Allen is, one of the better pass rushers in the NFL as far as generating pressure. And he's a top 10 pick for a reason, a few years back. So, yeah, they've got a number 1 overall pick and another top 10 pick as their edge rushers. And, those guys get paid to make plays as well. So it's the NFL. You're going to lose reps. I was pleasantly impressed with the pass blocking. I thought they performed much better pass blocking than they did run block. The run blocking was abysmal. It was terrible. You are correct. They could not generate a push at all against that interior of Jacksonville, especially on short yardage. I believe the Colts, at one point, they were like between 3rd and 4th down towards the end of the game. They were 1 of 12 on 3rd and 4th down, which is a point that you highlighted, Michael, on our preview, the Colts' ability to, move the chains and stuff. But yeah, O-line's got to be better in run blocking for sure in order to take pressure off of Anthony Richardson and maybe, take him out of situations where he feels the need that he has to pull the ball and run to generate rushing yards. He was the Colts' leading rusher today, and he had 40 yards rushing. So that's got to be better moving forward.
Yeah, my next thing, I'm going to get into Shane Steichen's play calling. It wasn't bad. I just didn't feel that as though he opened it up for Anthony Richardson to operate. That's where I think where the problem lied. He didn't take the training wheels off. It felt like he was still calling plays for a preseason game. Maybe wanted to start easy in game 1, although I don't agree starting easy when you're facing a division rival. All levels are level right now. Everybody's 0-0. This is your chance to get a jump on a division leader who you think is the best team in the division. This is your chance. I didn't necessarily agree with the approach. I don't know about you guys. I didn't necessarily see anything exotic, anything crazy going on in the play calling. Everything seemed pretty simple. A lot of throws underneath, even when it was 3rd and long. These throws were not even getting past the sticks. So that was my issue. The 4th and 1 play call going far right to the short side of the field. I didn't understand that one bit. I'm not entirely sure. And Landon, you actually tweeted out earlier in the game, Shane Steichen is going to figure out pretty quickly that this is not the Eagles' offensive line. This is not the Eagles' offensive line. All that stuff worked last year when you got the Kelsey in the middle and you got those guys on the outside. You got the guards, the all-pro guards. It's not that. Even though you have an all-pro guard who's not playing like an all-pro guard, but that was my thing. Not necessarily a negative, more of like confusion. Why would this be the approach in game 1 against a division rival? Didn't see any deep passes, which is I think we were all, looking forward to in this game. Alec Pierce, Michael Pittman, all of those boys. That's my thing. What Landon, let me start with you here. I don't think we're going to say it's a negative. It's just why this approach?
Well, I mean, really, it's just more about like easing Anthony Richardson into things. I mean, this was always to me going to be the plan. Maybe not as much, underneath stuff. I thought they would take at least a couple shots during this game. And they did have the explosive play, obviously, on the screenplay to Michael Pittman when he scored the touchdown. So that was always good to see. But yeah, just the lack of like Alec Pierce usage. That was really puzzling to me, that's something we'll see going forward if it's kind of like a bad omen on Alec Pierce on what his role in this offense is going to be going forward and, his inability to get open consistently today. And that's something you really saw in the preseason as well. So, yeah, we'll see how that works out. But, yeah, they were always going to go conservative with Richardson, get him comfortable, get him easy, underneath completions. It's really about building the confidence up week by week. You're laying the foundation right now. And then, before you start building the house, because you got to have a good foundation before that house crumbles, so it's more about laying the foundation now, getting him comfortable within the offense, doing simple things, easy things, one read type of things, and then you kind of build off of that as the season and the years go.
Yeah, I agree. When it comes to, like his play calling, it was rusty for sure. But we all wanted to see Anthony Richardson, sail it out, throw the football and everything. But I mean, I did a little bit of trolling in the chat earlier with Mike, but I was being completely honest. I was like, it's just week one. Everything you can't throw out there in week one. Let him, step into his game and, start to figure it out a little bit more, especially against a division rival. So, it was frustrating to watch, but I kind of understood it as the game went on. And I wasn't going to overreact. I said, save it for Monday. So it is what it is at the end of the day. Of course, we would have liked to see, more passes to Kylan Granson because you see he started to step up a little bit in the game. We wanted to see Alec Pierce, but he been struggling since preseason. We wanted to see some things, but again, it is week one. Anthony Richardson, we talked about the whole offseason how he had to develop into his own and get into the game because he hasn't really played football for that long. So I mean, well, he hasn't taken like 13 snaps or something like that, 13 starts. So it's going to be weird at the beginning of the year. But of course, he has to, step into his game and learn, and develop that over time as well. So I think Shane Steichen is going to open it up a little bit more towards the end of towards the middle of the season, I would say, especially see a little bit more even next week. So of course, it is week one. Let's not overreact. It is what it is. Of course, we could have opened up the game plan. We've seen it towards the end of the game. Like the last drive, we've seen how aggressive it can be with the up-tempo pace when he started throwing the football and the RPOs of that nature. So it was unfortunate at the beginning with the play calling, but I think he'll figure it out.
Another negative for me is going to be the turnovers, man. The turnovers, the fumble by Deion Jackson, the interception by Anthony Richardson. And the Anthony Richardson, that was just a teaching moment. Get it a little bit higher. Don't try to lock onto your receiver early and just deliver the pass. On that play, Landon, help me out here. On that play, Mo Alley-Cox and Michael Pittman were running the same route on that play. Did that was that by design, do you think, or did somebody get something mixed up?
No, that's by design. It's just a simple, zone beater. It's just high-low read. Okay. So really you're just reading one guy in there. And if he's high, you throw to Mo Alley-Cox. If he's low, you throw it out to Pittman. And really you're throwing to a spot. But they had, a really good coverage called. A cover three is generally pretty tough in that situation. Mainly because a guy like what Tyson Campbell did, he kind of baited Richardson into that low read, and then you've seen him kind of fall and trail off, right there into that zone. And that's just, rookie quarterback in his first start, that's kind of just what you want to do. You want to kind of bait him into making some of these throws against zone coverages. And that's basically what happened. But it's something that, going forward and what we've seen from Richardson so far, and really what you saw from him in the very next drive, you see him go out there and he learns from those mistakes. And that's really what you want to see when you're talking about a young quarterback growing. And they'll go over that and, we'll see how it goes forward with everything. But yeah, nothing concerning to me on that pick. It wasn't egregious. It was just, like you said, just a teaching moment.
Yeah. Okay. For sure. I just wanted to clear that up. And then the fumble with Deion Jackson. Oh my gosh. It just couldn't have come at a worse time, halted the offense. And that was, it just wasn't good. The turnovers need to, turnovers were a big thing last year. They highlighted them in the pregame when they were talking about the offense and then last year's performance. That has to cut. The turnovers have to cut out. They just have to. It cost you today. And I will say another thing was the fourth down decisions. I agree if you want to go for it on 4th and 1. If you can't get 1 yard, just 1 yard, then yeah, it's probably not going to go good for you that day. But the 4th and 4, that one was a little bit, you're sort of at midfield. If you don't get it, Jaguars are set up for success. And what happened right after the Colts did not get that first down on 4th and 4? Jaguars marched right down the field and got points. Easy, easy when you have that good a field position. I don't like that personally, just 4th and 4 at that position, especially when you saw 4th and 1, you weren't even able to get that. That's just me. I'll highlight that as my own negative. Don't want to speak for Marcus and Landon, but yeah, that was just, I feel like, in the same thing we're going to say that Anthony Richardson is growing, Shane Steichen is also growing. Because as an offensive coordinator, you're just focused on the offense and what it is you got to do. When you're in the head coach, you got to think about the overall performance of the game. How are you helping your defense? Are you going to put your defense in a bad situation by making this decision? Are you going to set them up for failure? That's how I kind of take it. So Shane Steichen, even though to me personally kind of was underwhelming in this game, there's still some good things that I think he's going to continue to grow and even learn himself as a head coach on.
Yeah, for me, I mean, are we just like kind of listing our concerns right here? Yeah, so like really like the only concern that I really had was kind of what I touched on earlier, and that's the usage of like the wide receivers. Because outside of Michael Pittman, and, Kylan Granson had, some good plays in this game. But outside of those two guys, they didn't really get any help from the skill position.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be tough going forward because you've got you've got a rookie quarterback, and he's looking for guys to help him out, to make plays, because especially during that first half, man, like it was – I think during the first half it was Richardson and Shane Steichen, and that was pretty much it. Like they carried that whole first half, and we saw Pittman obviously get going there in the third quarter, and that's always a positive to see. And I mean he's a great player in his own right, and he's going to get his. And it seems like Richardson has kind of found his comfort level with Pittman. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean Alec Pierce has got to step up. The running backs have got to step up. The tight ends outside of Kylan Granson, they've got to step up. And, not really so much Josh Downs just because he is a rookie. Remember, this was his first game as well. But, this team was expecting this big jump from Alec Pierce this year, and you heard it all preseason about how he was, doing in camp, and he's just, dominating guys. And then we get out to the preseason games, he couldn't get open. We get out to this game, nothing. I don't know. I mean, I think he had one catch in this game. So
one catch for 5 yards and only 3 targets.
Yeah. So I mean, that's you've got to find who that guy outside of Michael Pittman is that's going to help take pressure off of Anthony Richardson in this offense. And you got a guy on the sideline right now on PUP list that would probably do wonders for that.
Yeah, I agree. Mike really took the words out of my mouth when I talk about growing pains when he's talking about the fourth down decisions. Like I said I wasn't mad at the decisions. If it was like 4th and 10 or 4th and 8, man, that's a stretch. But it was like 4 yards. I was like, you know what? If they get it, we cheer. If they don't get it, it's like, why'd you do it? So it's basically normal. I feel like it won't be that situation moving forward down at going into the season. But like I said, it's growing pains for both of those guys. It's a new offense. So I expect the struggles, from the offensive side. But even still with this offensive struggle today, I feel like this offense was a little bit way more productive than what we seen last year. So I wasn't, overreacting to anything. Of course, like I said, they'll figure it out moving forward. But, of course, when you guys mentioned the wide receiver rooms getting involved more, I definitely would have loved to see other wide receivers get more targets. Of course, Granson did his thing. Michael Pittman Jr. did his thing. We've seen Josh Downs get an explosive play when he got the ball. So I think if he would have got involved a little bit more, maybe the offense would have changed directions tempo-wise. So, like, again, getting your gadget players involved a little bit more probably would have been a little bit different on the outlook.
Yeah, in the first half, when it comes to using your targets, like Landon said, one thing that cannot happen again, and I've said it ever since he entered this league, because I loved him in the pre-draft process. Going into halftime, your best player cannot have one target. He cannot have one target. Michael Pittman going into the halftime had only one target. Now, they changed that in the second half by giving him 10, ended up finishing with 8 catches for 97 yards. So that's a plus. But Michael Pittman Jr. needs to see at minimum about 15, 14 targets a game. And that's just at minimum because he is, in my opinion, by far the best offensive weapon the Colts have, at least for right now, with Jonathan Taylor on PUP, and we'll see if he even comes back this season. So that's something that just cannot happen anymore. He obviously had a strong second half, awesome, but we gotta improve that. We gotta get his touches up, get him some more looks, create some more plays by design, getting him open, because the Jaguars, I will give them credit, they were giving him bracket coverage at the same time. They were trying to take him away a little bit, but obviously an extra effort to get him the ball. Those are the negatives. Let's get into the positives, okay? Even though there are positives, yes, there are positives going 0-1, but I think I got to start here because it's my favorite side of the ball. This defense was flying today, man. This defense was flying today, and a Gus Bradley defense is going to be a strong one. Now, were there some problems on the back end with the secondary? Sure. It's kind of hard to guard Calvin Ridley, to cover him for 10 seconds. It's kind of hard to do that. But, man, the front seven was strong in this game. DeForest Buckner, a sack, a touchdown. Kwity Paye giving consistent pressure. Last year, what we lacked was consistent pressure on the right side. Yannick Ngakoue was a guy who got empty sacks. Well, Samson Ebukam, he was working Walker Little today. He was working him, getting constant pressure, and he's not a liability in the run game, which you saw multiple times, especially on a fourth down, just beating Walker Little inside, and him and Zaire Franklin teaming up, getting that tackle. It's awesome. Zaire Franklin, look, it was awesome to see Shaq Leonard back. It is awesome. I'm happy for him. Zaire Franklin seems to be the vocal leader of this defense. And not necessarily because, Shaq Leonard's not that guy anymore. Shaq Leonard just didn't play last year. So Zaire Franklin took that upon himself, and it showed today. The man was a missile coming out of the cannon. He was flying around, delivering hits, blows, getting all kinds of hits in. He was all over the place. I love this defense. I really, really wish, we all wish, that this win would have came out, especially when the defense gives you a touchdown. But it kind of ended up like last year. You have a strong defensive performance for 3 quarters. Your offense just is not doing anything to help you out, at least consistently, and you ultimately break. And that's what we saw last year. It's what we saw today. Hopefully it's a thing that changes moving forward, because obviously, again, you expect Shane Steichen to grow, learn from his mistakes. You expect Anthony Richardson to grow from his mistakes. Like Landon said earlier, threw an interception, came right back the next drive, and led the Colts down inside the red zone. So, and by the way, Anthony Richardson is fine, by the way. Shane Steichen did say that after the game. There's no injury situation going on. So that's, yes, like Landon, yes. we don't need that at all. I'm going to start with the defense there. Landon, what you got?
Yeah, my positives really, outside of, the defense for sure, like the defensive line and the linebackers, DeForest Buckner in particular, was just an absolute animal. Zaire Franklin played great. Kwity Paye, who's a guy that I kind of pointed out last week when we were doing our preview show. I mean, he showed up in multiple ways today. He's looking great. This defensive line, if they can continue to play the way they played today, the Colts are going to be in a lot of games with a chance to win. But really the positive for me, of course, as always, even in a loss, the only thing that matters this season, Anthony Richardson. That's it. It's all that matters. And he looked so comfortable today. He looked poised. He didn't really make many mistakes outside of just, the one throw where he got baited by a good defensive call. He looked way more ready than what even I expected him to. And it just goes to show the growth that he's had from the time that he got drafted until now, the fact that he looks that comfortable out there. And I made a post earlier as well. I know it's only week 1 and we'll see how the season goes, but right now, CJ Stroud played, Bryce Young played. He leads all the rookie quarterbacks right now in completion percentage, yards, total touchdowns, and passer rating. And both of those guys were deemed as more ready to play than he was coming out. And we heard that multiple times through the draft process. So the fact that he came out and looked as comfortable, if not more comfortable, than the 2 other guys who were kind of drafted ahead of him that were being, said to be more pro ready. It's a really great sign moving forward. And This season's just about his growth and how he develops, but a lot of really, really positive things out there on the field from him today. And yeah, 64.9% completion percentage after we've been told for months that he wouldn't throw it, above the 50s. So yeah, it was a good game for Anthony Richardson. There's a lot of positives looking forward. He's got to have some more help in his running game, and he's got to have some more help with his wide receivers and tight ends.
Yeah, for sure. The defense, man. Oh my gosh. Like the defense kept us in the game, even when the offense couldn't, when they were struggling, even when they put up points, the defense was flying since the first quarter. And usually last year they had these moments like when the Colts defense would be only good for like a certain half, whether it was the first or second. But they were sitting on offense the whole game until, the offense couldn't figure it out and forced them to get back on the field as soon as possible. But Tony Brown, man, shout out to Tony. Like I mentioned it when I went to training camp. I was like, he was the loudest one in the building, even over the crowd and the music. Like even you guys mentioned Shaquille Leonard and Zaire Franklin. Like Tony Brown was just the love of the defense, like the hype of the defense, man. And he made a big play today against Jacksonville. I love the pressure that they put on Trevor Lawrence today because that's what I mentioned, I think, during the pre-show is like putting pressure on Trevor Lawrence. And that's what they did. Now, he still made some crazy plays, but it's nothing you could do. Like, he was just putting up – like, his ball placements was insane. And there's nothing you can do. You can't play a certain amount of defense when the ball's getting right to the receiver, even when you're in the area. But the defensive pressure was just amazing to see today. Shout out to Grover Stewart. He made some plays. We mentioned Sampson. He was a force wreaking havoc today, which was dope to see. But the linebacker group and even special teams, like – there was special teams in the first half. I would say the first half of the special teams, like they were making some stops. Man, they were doing really good. But other than that, I think the defense was. I think out of all of us can agree was the vocal reason for today. They stood out, man. They made some plays. And DeForest Buckner is running back one, in my opinion. You can argue with the wall. That boy is flying down the sideline. Nobody was stopping him. So running back one, DeForest Buckner. But shout out to him, man. The defense definitely gets their flowers today.
So, can y'all hear me?
Yeah,
okay. Just wanted to make sure we were good. I gotta harp on Zaire Franklin again, man, because he is quickly becoming my favorite Colt. Obviously, my favorite one is Shaq Leonard and Rodney Thomas II, the Rodney Thomas II, who I thought had a solid game. Zaire Franklin again, man. Like, this guy's awareness, his attention to detail is just superb. It's one of the best on the team. Let's go back to the strip sack that Buckner caused on Trevor Lawrence. Ball comes out. It goes right up. It actually takes a favorable bounce for the Jaguars, lands into the arms of Tank Gibbsby, and he just stands there. He's standing there. Zaire Franklin comes right behind him. He doesn't tackle him. He doesn't look to spear that man like Edge did to Jeff Hardy off the ladder. He doesn't do any of that. He goes and punches the ball out of his hands and then yells at Buckner, "Get the ball." That is, yes, DeForest Buckner, like Marcus said, strip sack, beast, picked it up, was out there running like he was Usain Bolt. But Zaire Franklin, who I thought was, there's multiple candidates for defensive MVP on the Colts. There's multiple candidates. But Zaire Franklin he made that play happen. He made that score happen. It was immediate. So the fact that nobody was standing around, he wasn't just standing around and saying, okay, incomplete. He didn't say any of that. He didn't hear a whistle. So he knocked it out. The attention to detail by Zaire Franklin, man. The last 3 years, Zaire Franklin has really come on from he was looked at as a special teams guy, a solid locker room special teams guy, and then a couple injuries happened. Kind of the depth chart kind of went favorably his way. And he has just started playing out of his mind. Zaire Franklin, man, he is the man. He's the Energizer Bunny on this team. Ultimately, I think Shaq Leonard might take that title back. But, man, the defense showed really good stuff. Shaq Leonard, I thought, was solid. There was a few times, actually, that he got beat in coverage. But he essentially missed the entire year last year. Let him get a few more games, get back in football shape, get back into, letting everything happen live in front of him and just get his feet wet again. So, other than that, I'm not entirely sure what else we can take away from this game. We've talked about the negatives. We talked about the positives. Again, like Landon said, he harped on it. Anthony Richardson looked solid. Other than one throw, didn't necessarily put the ball in harm's way, was smart with it. They even talked about on the broadcast that Peyton Manning texted him earlier this week and told him good luck. Anthony Richardson asked Peyton Manning any advice, and Peyton Manning told him, take care of the ball, be smart, and have fun. And that's exactly what Anthony Richardson did. So, hey, the Colts are 0-1, but again, we've talked about what this season could be. Marcus and I did have the Colts winning today, hoping that this week 1 drought would end. Unfortunately, it hasn't. But I also got to say, that dart, it was a dart Anthony Richardson got to Josh Downs on that third down call. I mean, if he would have been a slight second too late, it would have been a pick. It would have been intercepted, possibly going back the other way. But that was a complete dart from Anthony Richardson. There's some good stuff. Houston is coming up. They hit the road. They're going to go to Houston. CJ Stroud versus Anthony Richardson is coming next week. I'm excited to see it. Will Anderson Jr. is going to be on the other side. Braden Smith, Bernard Raimann. Bernard Raimann, in my opinion, had probably the best game out of all the 5 linemen. Good, kudos to him. Bull Rush is still kind of giving him problems, but he's reacting and he's gaining ground much better. He definitely got better. His anchor is getting stronger, so I like that also. Feel like I'm all over the place right now, but other than that, guys, do y'all have anything else?
The ball was slippery on Julian Blackmon's interception. So don't beat yourself up about it. I seen it on replay. I couldn't even catch that football. It looked slippery. That's the only reason.
Anthony Richardson looked really good, like I said, and that's a positive, as well as now the Colts are one step closer to Marvin Harrison Jr.
Wow.
16 more steps to go, right?
Yeah, that's what it is. As long as Anthony Richardson looks good, Colts are on their way to Marvin Harrison Jr. I think we're in business.
Hey, man, Marvin Harrison Jr., Jared Verse, Brock Bowers. I mean, I don't think you can go wrong. But other than that, yeah, Landon freaking one step closer to Marvin Harrison Jr., even though he lit it up this past weekend, or yesterday, rather. Other than that, man, before we get out of here, I do want to ask y'all one question, because I think we probably got to talk about it after today, even though I would rather not, but it was evident in today's game. How quickly do the Colts need Jonathan Taylor to get back? Landon, let's start with you.
Well, if they want to win football games week 5, as soon as he's eligible to come off of PUP and get back on the field, and yeah, it's I think there was actually a pretty good chance, and like I always hate being like this, but there's a good shot that they had a chance to really win this ball game if Jonathan Taylor's out on that field today. And you really kind of saw it towards the end of the game where, you can't have your quarterback be your leading rusher, and you can't expose him to big hits, because you do expose him to being hurt. And that's what really worried everybody at the end of that game, whenever he got that big hit running the ball. And he was kind of lame getting up and wasn't, didn't go back in. Obviously Minshew came in to finish the ball game. So, if you want to keep Anthony Richardson safe and healthy, and you are serious about winning ball games, then I think Jonathan Taylor week 5 is when you're looking for him to come back.
Yeah, I don't like thinking like that, of course, but that is the reality. What would have been, what could have been, what could have, would have, should have. That's usually what I say if Jonathan Taylor was available. But like Landon said, week 5 is when we get the answer. But, hey, he has been battling injury last year, so we don't know what the true perception would be in his offense with Jonathan Taylor coming back week 1. But anybody, I think, any type of runner would have been a better running game than what we had today. Today was not the greatest image you would get or you would want to see when it comes to running the football without Jonathan Taylor, because you just get the naysayers like, hey, if we had Taylor, this would have happened. I mean, like I said, if Jake Funk would have got more ticks after Deion Jackson would have fumbled and they kept putting him back in the game, hey, maybe it would have been a different outlook. But the offensive line, when it comes to run blocking, just wasn't great at all. So I truly don't know what the answer would be. But like I said, week 5 we'll have a better perception of what it's going to look like if he does play.
Yeah, man, there was 2 instances where I thought of Jonathan Taylor in today's game, and they both happened on a 4th and 1. They both happened on a 4th and 1. Do you get that first down if you hand it off to Jonathan Taylor? He's pretty strong in the legs. Would he have moved the pile maybe half a yard? What they needed? Would he have done that? I think he probably would have because he's pretty freaking strong. So, yeah, I mean, we probably don't like playing that game. We probably don't like, if they would have had this person, if they would have had that person, like, what could have been. But you also got to recognize when maybe sometimes what would happen if they had it. Do the Colts swallow their pride and fix this? Do they – I don't know what the latest is on that. Is Jonathan Taylor willing to play without his contract? Are the Colts going to cave and give him the contract and say, okay, look, we need you a lot more than we thought we did? Well, not necessarily not more than we thought they did. They wanted to pay him. It's just the timing of it. So let me change that wording that it's still just going to be a tricky situation. I don't know what the Colts are going to do, but the Colts do need Jonathan Taylor back. So I will continue to monitor it. Not sure what updates we're going to have since he is on PUP. And as Landon said, the earliest he can be back is week 5. So you're going to play the Texans, the Ravens, and I believe the Rams before Jonathan Taylor comes back. So other than that, yeah, let's hope Deion Jackson's season is in full effect. Evan Hall looked like he was having, some success here and there. Obviously left the game with an injury. Continues to monitor that as the week moves along. But Landon, Marcus, I think we're good here. No? All right.
Sir.
Well, other than that, guys, the Colts did start out 0-1. Do they win 16 straight here coming up? We'll see. Or do we get 16 steps closer to Marvin Harrison Jr.? We'll see about that. But most importantly, again, coming out of this game, man, I think a huge cloud just came out outside. It got dark in here. But Anthony Richardson showed promise. Michael Pittman, more targets, please, for the love of God. And again, when you target Molly Cox, no good things happen. So I guess that's another takeaway we got from this. Other than that, guys, he is Landon. He is Marcus. I am Michael. If you have not already, make sure you go to the Home Field Apparel website and get whatever you want, guys. Make sure to use the code BLUESTABLE to get 15% off your final purchase. This is awesome because they just dropped their new line of Colts merch all over the place. They got cardiac, Colts fleece. They got nice joggers. They have a bomber jacket, 2016, 2006 Super Bowl champs on it. Or if you want to get something for Ball State, Purdue, Indiana, if you want to go get something for that for football season or maybe prep for basketball season, because I know y'all Hoosiers love some basketball, make sure you go over there and use code BLUESTABLE, one word, all capitalized, to get 15% off your final purchase. So other than that, guys, we'll see y'all here in the next week to preview Houston and something that I am looking very forward to. Anthony Richardson versus CJ Stroud. Shane Steichen versus D'Amico Ryans. Y'all have a good one.